All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are going to declare and execute our very first Playwright test. And I promise, by the end of this, you'll see just how unbelievably simple and powerful this is. So let me ask you a question. Are you still manually checking that same login button after every single push to staging? Clicking the same things, filling out the same forms, again and again? It's not just tedious, it's slow. And honestly, it's where mistakes happen. Trust me, there is a much better way. If you've ever worked with older automation tools, this probably looks painfully familiar. You're throwing time.sleep calls into your code, basically just crossing your fingers and hoping the page is loaded. Your tests fail randomly, and you spend hours debugging timing issues instead of, actually testing logic. Playwright just completely changes the game with a fundamentally smarter approach. So how does Playwright solve all these timing nightmares? Well, it all comes down to its core architecture. And I think the best way to really get it is with an analogy. That's right. I want you to think of Playwright as a high-end, professional, Michelin-star kitchen. Everything is spotless, it's efficient, and it is designed for one thing: perfect, repeatable results every single time. And this isn't just a gimmick. It perfectly explains Playwright's core principles. Let's see how. So, first things first. In a professional kitchen, you'd never use a dirty pan to cook a new dish, right? Of course not. Well, Playwright operates the same way. Every single test gets its own perfectly clean cooking station, a completely isolated browser context. That means no leftover cookies, no shared local storage, nothing. This guarantees that one test can't accidentally mess up another one, and that is the secret to getting reliable, reproducible results. And this is the real magic. A master chef doesn't just toss ingredients into a cold pan. They wait for it to get to that perfect temperature. Playwright is that master chef. Before it clicks a button, it automatically waits for that button to be visible, to be stable, and to be ready to receive a click. This one feature, seriously, this right here, eliminates probably 90% of the reasons automated tests get flaky.
And just like any great kitchen, it's incredibly efficient. It can cook 3 main courses at the same time. Playwright is built from the ground up to run your tests in parallel across all the major browser engines: Chromium, Firefox, and WebKit, by default. This means you get comprehensive feedback and you get it fast.
And let's be real, when your tests are faster and more reliable, you catch more bugs, you spend less time on manual checks, and you just get more done. Your future self is going to love you for this, and so will your project manager.
Okay, enough talk about the theory. We've seen how the kitchen is set up. Now it's time to actually write our first recipe, and you'll see it's way simpler than you might think. Every single test you write in Playwright is going to follow this same basic 5-step process. It's super logical. You set things up, you do the work, and then you clean up after yourself. Let's see what this looks like in some actual Python code.
All right, check this out, our first recipe. First, we import sync Playwright. Now, see this with statement? This is your best friend. It acts like the manager of our kitchen. It opens everything up for us and, crucially, cleans everything up automatically when we're done. No mess. Inside, p.chromium.launch just fires up a browser. Then browser.newPage, that's us getting that perfectly clean cooking station we talked about. We use page.goto to head to a URL. And here's the most important part, the taste test, the assert line. We're just checking to make sure the word Playwright is in the page's title. If it is, the test passes. Then we close the browser. That's it, a complete, professional, working, automated test.
Now look at this. This is where the beauty really shines through. What if you want to run that exact same test in Firefox? You just change one single word. Chromium becomes Firefox. The rest of the code doesn't change at all. That's the power of a clean and consistent API.
Okay, so you know how to write a test. But now, let's talk about how to write a great test. These are the insider tips that are going to help you avoid those common kitchen disasters right from day one. So what's the biggest mistake? The number one thing that instantly tells me someone is new to the Playwright way of thinking.
It's this: adding time.sleep. It's a bad habit a lot of us carry over from older, flakier frameworks. With Playwright's auto-wait, it's just completely unnecessary. Adding a sleep call is like telling our master chef to just stop and stare at the wall for 5 seconds. It's pointless, it slows everything down, and it makes your tests brittle. You have to trust the chef. Trust the auto-wait.
And here are 2 other big ones. First, expecting things to be shared between tests. Remember the clean cooking station? It means every test starts completely fresh. If you log in test A, you are not logged in for test B. This is a feature, not a bug. Second is using instant checks. That's like peeking in the oven for a split second and deciding the cake is done. Web apps have delays. Instead, you have to use what are called web-first assertions. They're smart enough to wait and retry for a few moments until the condition is met, which makes your tests 1,000 times more reliable.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground, so let's boil it all down to the absolute critical takeaways. You master these, and you're already way ahead of the game.
Here it is, your pro playbook. 3 simple rules. 1. Trust the chef. Let AutoWait do its job. Get rid of every single manual wait in your code. 2. Focus on the user's experience. Test that clicking the Submit button actually works, not that the button has some specific CSS class that might change next week. And 3. Unleash that parallel power. Run your tests concurrently to get feedback as fast as humanly possible.
And I am not exaggerating here. If you truly understand isolation, if you trust AutoWait, and you write user-centric tests, you are avoiding the biggest mistakes out there and building a foundation for a truly world-class test suite.
So, you've written your first perfect test recipe. Awesome. But what happens when the page is complex? How do you find that one specific button buried deep inside a bunch of menus? How do you reliably tell Playwright what to click? Well, that's all about mastering locators, and it's exactly what we're going to dive into in our next explainer.